Glitches in the Matrix explores eerie anomalies in reality, moments where the world behaves in ways it shouldn't, as if we're living in a flawed simulation. These stories recount strange coincidences, impossible occurrences, and unsettling encounters that defy logic. Thanks for watching. I don't know how to explain this without sounding crazy. I probably am. Or maybe I just woke up in the wrong version of my life. It started after I got out of the hospital. Nothing major, just a bad flu that knocked me out for a week. But when I got home, everything felt slightly off. At first I thought it was just the post-sickness haze. My bed felt a little different. My clothes smelled unfamiliar, like detergent I don't remember buying. My phone password didn't work. It was only one digit off, like I had made a typo in my own mind. But I know my password. I've used the same one for years. My friend called. We talked for a while, catching up, and he mentioned a trip we supposedly took together a few months back. I have no memory of this trip. He even sent me pictures. And yeah, that's me in them. Same hair, same watch I'm wearing right now, but I don't remember being there. I tried brushing it off, telling myself it was just brain fog, but then came the real kicker. I was heading out to meet some friends when I grabbed my keys, except they weren't my keys. They looked almost the same, but the keychain was different. One of those tacky souvenir keychains, a mini Eiffel Tower. I have never been to Paris. I laughed at myself, thinking maybe I just forgot I had gone. I opened my closet and stared at my clothes. Some of them weren't mine, not new, not mine, clothes I'd never wear. At this point, I started checking everything. My texts, some messages I swore I never sent, my calendar, dentist appointment I have no memory of scheduling, trips I never took, events I wasn't at, me standing next to people I don't know. And before anyone says, maybe it's early onset dementia, I'm only 31. My mind has always been sharp. I remember useless movie quotes from years ago. I can recite my childhood address. But now, I don't even know if the apartment I live in is the one I was supposed to come back to. I don't know how long I stared at my phone before I finally threw it on the bed and just sat there, hands shaking. This is my life, but it isn't. I still go to work. I still talk to my friends. I still play the role of myself. And every time I walk into my apartment, I feel like a guest. Every time I check my phone, I wonder what other memories I never had are waiting to show up. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I woke up one day and someone had recreated my life from memory, but they got some of the details wrong. And I don't know if I'll ever find my way back to the version that actually belongs to me. I don't think I've ever truly questioned my sanity before. Not like that night. Not until I saw her. It started with a fight. Me and my daughter yelling at each other over something stupid. It got bad. She stormed off to the guest house in the backyard, slamming the door. I stayed in the kitchen. I was really pissed. Needing to cool off, I filled a mug with water, tossed it in the microwave, hit the buttons without thinking. The hum filled the room. I just stood there rubbing my temples, replaying everything in my head. The microwave beeped. I grabbed my mug, turned toward the window, and that's when I saw her. Someone was sitting outside the guest house. My first thought was my daughter, maybe cooling off after the argument, but something felt off. I stepped closer to the window. It wasn't my daughter. It was me. Not me now, but the younger me. Same short bob haircut I had in my 20s. Same oversized hoodie I used to live in. Same way I sat when I was lost in thought. She was talking, laughing. She was alone. I just stood there. I couldn't make sense of it. She was real. Not a reflection, not some weird shadow. Just me sitting outside, talking to no one. She turned, looking straight at me, and smiled. I swear I stopped breathing. The kitchen was dark. The window should have made it impossible for her to see me, but she did. And she knew. I couldn't move. I just stood there. The microwave beeped again. I flinched, snapped out of whatever trance I was in, and looked back at the window. The chair was empty. The yard was silent. Nothing out of place. She was gone. I didn't sleep that night, and the next morning, I didn't find any footprints or anything weird. Never told my daughter. But sometimes late at night I catch myself staring out that same window, just in case she's still out there watching me, as I watched her. And the worst part, the more I think about it, the more I feel like I was the glitch. Like maybe, for just a moment, I wasn't supposed to be here. A few years ago, my family had to fly out for my uncle's funeral. He lived on an island, so my family booked hotel rooms near the funeral home. We all agreed to meet in the lobby at 9 a.m. sharp to drive over together. No one wanted to be late. The night before, we were exhausted from the trip, so we all knocked out early. Just to be safe, my mom set a wake-up call. My dad set his phone alarm. I set my alarm and my backup alarm. My sister did the same. My parents even planned to knock on everyone's doors in the morning. We had multiple fail-safes. The next morning, none of us woke up. When I finally did, I didn't feel good. Not just the usual grogginess, you know when you sleep too much and feel kind of gross. It was worse than that, like I had been drugged or put under anesthesia. A weird, heavy sleep, like I hadn't just overslept but had been completely switched off. It was too bright outside. My phone displayed 11:17 a.m. For a solid 5 seconds, I just stared at it, waiting for my brain to catch up. That had to be wrong, right? Then I heard doors opening in the hallway, confused voices, footsteps. My sister's door creaked, and I saw her poke her head out, same disoriented look on her face. My parents stepped into the hall, rubbing their faces, completely out of it. My aunt opened her door, blinking like she had been knocked out cold. Every single one of us had overslept. None of our alarms had gone off. The wake-up call never happened. My mom, who never, ever oversleeps, said she hadn't even stirred until now. My dad, same thing. At this point, pure panic kicked in. We threw on clothes and ran out of the hotel. By the time we got to the funeral home, the service was already halfway over. We missed most of it. Afterward, we sat around trying to piece together what happened. Someone said jet lag, but we were in the same time zone. Even if a few of us had overslept, all of us at the exact same time. That's just not possible. My parents naturally wake up at 5 a.m. My aunt's a light sleeper. She hears everything, and yet not one person heard their alarm. When I checked my phone later, it said my alarm did go off. It even said it was snoozed once. But I never heard it. None of us did. Like something just decided we weren't supposed to wake up. A full-on mass glitch that hit us all at the exact same time. Be me, work as a janitor at an office building, get stuck with the New Year's Day shift because life is suffering. Had a few drinks the night before, but not enough to die. Just that I'm tired, but not really feeling. Cleaning up the office, emptying bins, vacuuming, contemplating existence. Suddenly splash. Sounds like someone threw a whole-ass bucket of water at the window. Nearly die tripping over the vacuum cord. Turn around. Window is drenched, water dripping down like heavy rain. But it's not raining. Go outside to check. Bone-dry sidewalk. No water, no pranksters. Just me standing there looking like an idiot. Brain.exe crashes. Maybe I'm just dehydrated from last night. Blink a few times, rub my eyes. Nope, water's still there. Slowly evaporates while I stare at it like a moron. Okay, whatever, just ignore it. 2 weeks later, splash. Same damn window, same exact thing. Go outside again. Street is still dry. At this point, seriously considering if I'm in a simulation. Tell my coworker. He just laughs and says, "Bro, maybe you were still drunk." I wasn't. I know what I saw. Now I pretend I didn't see it. But every time I walk past that window, I expect the third splash. It hasn't happened yet. I don't get lost. That's something I never do. I drive the same route home every night, all the same turns, same streets. I could do it blindfolded. I had just picked up food from a dumpling shop. Taking my usual way back to my Airbnb, it was dark and foggy, but nothing unusual. I wasn't worried. Until I noticed the streetlights, or more specifically, that there weren't any. 1 second I was on a familiar street, passing small restaurants and parked scooters in the next. Nothing, just pitch black road stretching into the distance. No street signs, no buildings, no headlights behind me. I slowed down. I had no cell service. Okay, GPS must be acting up, so I kept driving. The road should have led back to the main intersection. But instead, I found myself on some narrow street I'd never seen before. Old houses with dark windows, no cars parked outside, no movement anywhere. Felt abandoned. At the end of the road was a fork that didn't make sense. There was never a fork here. I knew this place. Then, I heard it. A voice, soft but firm, right behind my ear. Go right. There was no one in my car. My hands were shaking, but I turned right. I don't know why. I just did. The moment I did, the fog got thicker, the temperature dropped, my headlights barely cut through the mist, my ears popped like I was driving into a tunnel. Then, out of nowhere, bright lights, a convenience store. I slammed the brakes. The fog disappeared instantly, like it had never been there. And that's when I realized I had been here before. It was the same 7-Eleven I passed at the start of my drive, the one 10 minutes away from my Airbnb. I had driven in a straight line. I had never turned around, and yet somehow I had looped right back to where I started. I don't know how I got home that night. I just remember sitting in my car, gripping the wheel, too scared to move. I never took that route again. We were out fishing at this lake we used to go to all the time. Just a quiet spot with a rickety old dock, a cooler of beers, and hours to waste. I had my old tackle box with me, same one I've had for years. Dented, covered in faded stickers, latch a little loose but still holding up. At some point, I opened it up to grab a new lure, then handed it to my friend so he could do the same. I remember that clearly. I felt it leave my hands. But a second later, when I reached for it again, he looked at me like I was crazy. He swore I never gave it to him. I thought he was messing with me. But the tackle box was gone. We both got up and started searching, checked the dock, under the chairs, under the cooler. Even the shallow water next to the dock, thinking maybe it fell in. Nothing. Then, we heard something fall. Something hit the dock right next to me. I jumped back as the tackle box fell straight down out of nowhere. For a second, we just stood there, staring at it. It was my tackle box. Same old stickers, same loose latch, the exact same one that had just disappeared. And there was nothing above us. No trees, no birds, no boats. No one standing on a bridge tossing things at us. Just empty sky. We stood there in silence, trying to process what just happened. The thing was gone for at least 2 minutes, completely missing. And then, it just dropped out of thin air. Still freaks me out thinking about it. I've never been the superstitious type. Don't believe in ghosts, fate, or any of that. But this thing happened years ago, and I still think about it all the time because I have no way of explaining it without sounding insane. My daughter, let's call her Sophia, was in college, first time away from home. She had a full ride scholarship, was doing great in her classes, and had just started dating this guy, Lucas. He seemed decent, responsible, family lived close to campus, so I figured she had people looking out for her. That night, she texted me asking for some money before heading to work. I sent it, she thanked me, said she'd text me tomorrow. Just normal, everyday stuff. She also mentioned she was picking up Lucas after work, since he was out drinking with friends, and she didn't want him driving. A few hours later, at around 4 or 5 a.m., my phone rang. It was the police. They asked if I was Sophia's father, then told me she'd been in a serious accident. I don't even remember the drive. My wife and I barely spoke, just alternating between silence and sobbing. When we got there, the hospital wouldn't give us much information over the phone, but when we walked in, they sent us straight to the trauma unit. I knew something was wrong the second we stepped out of the elevator. A doctor met us and broke the news. Sophia hadn't made it. A head injury caused a fatal seizure. They let us see her before they moved her body. I remember everything. The machines, the wires, the blood. Her face still looked like my little girl, but she wasn't there anymore. Lucas didn't make it either. A car full of drunk college students ran a red light and hit them head on. 4 of the 5 girls in the other car died on impact. The next day was a blur. Calls, grief, trying to process everything. At some point, my wife and I realized we had to go to Sophia's dorm and pack up her things. Called the campus housing office, explained what happened, and they told us when we could come. And then I woke up and saw my wife wasn't crying. It felt normal. Then my phone buzzed. It was Sophia. She was texting me, thanking me for the money. I almost dropped it. I called her immediately, barely able to speak. She answered, half asleep, confused about why I was freaking out. I didn't even try to explain. I just begged her to stay home that night and not pick up Lucas. She was confused, but she agreed. That night, the accident still happened, but with different victims. Lucas's friends got in the car with someone else and they were hit by the same drunk driver. Lucas survived. His friends didn't. For a long time, I obsessed over it. Was it a premonition? A nightmare? A glitch in reality? I have no idea. What I do know is I don't take time for granted anymore. I don't say, I'll call later. I don't push off visits because I already lived through losing her once. And I don't want to go through that again. Reality isn't always as stable as we think, and these stories are proof that sometimes the world glitches in ways we can't explain. Whether it's a flaw in the system or something much darker, these experiences leave us questioning what's real. If you've ever encountered a glitch of your own, share your story in the comments. And if you're ready for more unsettling tales, click the next video for more dark and chilling stories.